sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. My special guest tonight is Lee Camp. He's a comedian and a political commentator. He hosts a show called Dangerous Ideas with Lee Camp. Welcome back, Lee.
What's up, Sabby? Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming back on. I see. Are you at tour right now? Are you still doing a comedy tour?
No, we just did one show in LA, but that was a lot of fun, but no.
Okay. So one of the things I want to start off talking about this tweet that you had here for people who have not seen this. You said they now tell us that the cop who killed Sonia Massey because he felt threatened by some water had a long history of issues. On one hand, this is not surprising because we see again and again that the U.S. police departments never actually fire problematic cops. They just move them around and force them to take a class on not being brutal morons in a system that specifically hires brutal morons. I want to talk a little bit about that. For those who are not aware, there is more information that has been released about the Sonia Massey situation, more so about the officer in question. That officer, obviously, as you guys know, he's facing multiple charges in reference to that incident. But also now there are reports coming out, like Lee said, that police officer has been problematic for quite some time. So I want to talk a little bit about that, Lee. This just seems like a recurring theme.
Yeah, so we see this every few months or maybe every few years where a police officer horrifically murders an innocent person, usually for a ridiculous reason. With Eric Garner, it was selling cigarettes illegally. With George Floyd, it was supposedly a bad check that he bounced. With Sonia Massey, it's that she picked up a pot of water and said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And then they're executed by our police. Now, when these things go viral, the police have a kind of standard PR practice, and one of them is to say, "Oh, that bad apple, man." With Eric Garner, the guy had used that illegal chokehold many times before. We later found out with Chauvin, he also had used the kneeling on the neck thing many times before. And they say, "Oh, that bad apple, man, if we had just gotten rid of that bad apple." When in fact, this is how our police work. If you actually look at the totality of the system, they murder 1,200 people a year average. If you go by their numbers, if you look at the Lancet Medical Journal, which said that over half of all cop killings are actually not written down as cop killings. It's just written down as heart attack or, lack of air or whatever they put down. So it's actually double that. It's probably more like 2,400 or more a year of innocent people murdered by police. You compare that to other nations, and there's places like Switzerland where the average is 0 or 1 person killed a year. Iceland has murdered 1 person in their entire existence as a country. It's just an insanely brutal and insanely set up, just the entirety of the system. And yet we're told, "Oh, no, it's this bad apple. This guy is he unhinged. We get him put away and everything's fine." And it is not looking at the heart of the system. It's a distraction to get you and me and so many of us to stop talking about how U.S. policing actually works, which, was based on slave patrols initially and is one of the most, fascist and all-encompassing police forces, the 3rd largest police army in the world, second only to India and China, which are far bigger populations. So it really is designed to get us not to talk about the reality.
That's right. And I don't know if everyone has seen this because everyone's not on Twitter, but there have been a number of videos from fellow police officers that have condemned what Grayson did. Other police officers making their own videos saying, no, this was 100% a murder, speaking out against that. But they don't speak out against the system because they're a part of it.
Yeah, they're a part of it, and they're defending the system by saying, "Oh, we would never behave that way." But to look at U.S. policing in general, if you actually study it, you find that it is set up in such a way where it's really designed to go after the poor or poorer communities, both in terms of where police are located. They're going to be located in poorer communities. And no, the general amount of crime is not just in poorer communities. The rich are involved in all kinds of crimes, all kinds of wonderful and dirty crimes, from stealing from all of us to using drugs. Oh my God, rich use drugs? Yeah, that's right. They do. Just like a lot of people in America use a certain amount of drugs. But we, for one thing, the rich are not investigated. So you're not going to have a police officer, walking through Wall Street trying to catch someone with cocaine in their pocket in general. So they're not investigated. But then if the rich are caught with some cocaine, guess what? It's a slap on the wrist at worst. Normally the cop would be like, you know what, just don't have that out here and get out of here. So we have an entire system set up to mainly go after the poor, those who are already having a tough time in life. And if you look at the Sonia Massey story as an example, she calls the cops because she thinks there's a prowler around. And they show up and they notice, I wasn't sure whether it was a broken open window or a cracked window on her car. And rather than knock on her door and say, we don't see a prowler, good night, which is what they do with a rich person who called them. They go, we don't see a prowler, but your window's cracked. We want to come in. We want to investigate your life. We kind of want to look around your apartment. We want to see what's up with you. And it is just completely the opposite than the way they would behave in a gated community where they're like, hey, no prowler. Have a good night, madam. Like, it's just, and so that's how you end up in these situations.
Yeah, so people have to understand this too, because wealthy people, they do have the money and the resources and the network to get themselves out of these situations. This is why a lot of times, for the most part, you see wealthy people don't go to jail. Now, there have been some exceptions, but most of the time they have a way to get out of it. They have the money to, number one, pay bail, pay cash bail.
We're one of two countries in the world that has the cash bail system.
Right. Because, guys, some people that are in jail, it's not necessarily because they're guilty. Some of them are there because they can't afford to pay cash bail. So they're just stuck there. Right. So that's kind of how like the system works. But to Lee's point, what people have to understand, if you are someone that is pro-police, what you have to get is that the police are targeting poor and working class people. They don't target the wealthy. This is why you always see people that commit like these Wall Street crimes. They manage to get away with it. Nobody was jailed for the 2008 housing crisis. Yeah. Not one banker, not one. And there's a whole documentary about this called The Con. If you guys haven't seen it, watch it. But the whole documentary, it names the different bankers that were, should have been held accountable. And none of them were jailed. None of them were held accountable. So again, like I said, they have the money and the resources to get away from the system.
And with 2008 and the collapse, people yell, Bernie Madoff. And first of all, exception that proves the rule. If you can name one dude that they caught and locked up over all of the egregious things that Wall Street has done to you and me and all of us, over all the theft, over all the exploitation, over all the abuse, you were able to name one guy, then the exception that proves the rule that they don't go after these guys. But then on top of that, Bernie Madoff was locked up because he stole from, wait for it, other rich people. That's when it gets a little more complicated.
That's right. I mean, this is one of the things I just continue to point out, number one, as well. She had a pot of water, which I watched that video in slow motion, and you'll see that she had already put the pot down and put her hands up, and she crouched down before he shot her. So the whole thing about the pot of water, that doesn't even work if you watch it in slow motion. So there's that. Meanwhile, if you go back to the Trump rally, here is a shooter on the roof with a gun. A police officer climbs up the ladder, sees him with the gun, and retreats.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. I mean, many people, including me, have asked what the hell was going on with the Trump rally, where they just let a shooter sit on a roof and aim at the president, the former president. And there's plenty of theories on what the hell was going on there, but who knows?
Now that brings me to the Kamala Harris situation. Because for all the people, and JB had such a good point about this, for all the people that immediately just hopped on the Kamala Harris train and they said, yay, everything's going to be great and safe now. She was a cop. And Kamala Harris, I can see her also choosing to give more money to the police, just like Joe Biden did. I don't think that's going to be any different just because she made a statement condemning what happened to Sonia Massey. I still see her giving more money to the police. Remember, she was known as being tough on, that was her thing as a prosecutor in California. She was known as being tough on crime. So what do you say to people that think or assume that Kamala Harris is going to fix this criminal justice issue?
I would ask them what they're smoking, because I'd like some. If they can send it to me, I'll include my address in the link here. No, it's laughable that she'll probably give more to the cops, but she's certainly not going to decrease the budget of the policing across America. She has proven throughout her career that she is part and parcel of this system. She defends this system. She is this system. She called herself the top cop of California, which, if you were to look at its economy in terms of nations, it's the 5th or 6th largest nation in the world. And she was the top cop of that. But she wasn't, I mean, she was bizarrely like worse than your average top cop in a state, wanting to imprison parents because there's kids miss school, like, you know, refusing to release nonviolent prisoners in California because they needed the labor, because the forced labor slavery goes on in our prison colonies across this nation, which, if I need to remind anyone, is the largest prison state in the world. You know, funny, we don't hear that in the Star-Spangled Banner. Largest prison state, both per capita and per sheer number in the world, and it's the land of the free. But she has proven herself time and time again to be part and parcel of the cops, of the policing system in this country, and she will not change that at all. And of course, Joe Biden was the same. I mean, Joe Biden, throughout his career, not just as president, throughout his career, was the front and center of every policing bill, every bill that gave more money to cops, every bill that gave more surveillance to cops. Joe Biden was the face of it. Kamala, of course, has been his vice president, which means she's part of it as well. And yeah, she will absolutely just facilitate this horrific fascist police state the way it is. And, you know, her condemning what happened to Sonia Massey, again, this is performative stuff that is done whenever one of these murders goes viral, which is very rare. And in this case, most of the time it's because someone else was filming, someone with a cell phone filmed the murder of someone, and then that goes viral. In this case, it was the body cam, but the body cam system, if you look at it as a whole, it is incredibly rare that body cam video that shows the cops doing bad, doing wrong, comes out in a timely manner. Almost never does it come out in a timely manner. Body cams are designed to surveil all of us, to actually facilitate police brutality, manipulation, injustice. And in this rare occasion, probably because someone on the top of this system in whatever city this was, wanted it to come out, but it's very rare. Generally, they hide the footage, they cover it up for years afterwards. So most of the time these murders go viral, it's because someone else filmed it.
If you can answer this question from Skylar here, I'm not a Kamala fan at all, but when does she keep California inmates in prison longer to maintain free prison labor leave?
So there was a time where, California prisons are notoriously over capacity, horrifically, you know, people sleeping like 5 and 10 to a room or whatever. And there was a time where they had, the government in California had said, you know, we need to release some of these prisoners, the nonviolent ones, the ones serving way longer than they should, in my opinion. And her office fought against it. Now, she, I think, has made statements saying, oh, that was, you know, my office, that wasn't me. But to me, when someone says that, I just hear bullshit. So, yeah.
Yeah. Not only that, too, but originally, this is another thing I think a lot of people are not aware of. Originally, she was against police reforms, which included body cams, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, the body cams issue, I've only started researching this recently because some great work that's been done. I can't remember the name of the guy, Alec, something like Kakanakis. But anyway, he's done some research overall on the entirety of body cams. And although it's called police reform, it's actually been pushed by a lot of police departments because they want the surveillance. It's a camera pointed out at you and me. It they can, most states, they can turn it off if they want to do something truly illegal. But on top of that, even if they do something illegal, it generally, the footage is held by the police and the higher ups in that state. So they're curating who sees what. So it really is largely a surveillance tactic, and yet it's been pushed as a liberal reform. And when you look at the entirety of what body cams have achieved, nothing that you or I would want. There's been no decrease in violence amongst police. There's been no increase in accountability. And the Sonia Massey example is the exception that proves the rule. They're murdering 2,400 a year, and we see one by the body cam. So it's incredibly rare.
That's right. And another thing, too, that I want to add, because now, of course, you know, the liberal media, they're saying not to focus on her record or making excuses for it. No, you have to focus on her record the same way you focus on any other candidate's record. I think that's very important for people. But also, there's this big elephant in the room, which you did highlight, which I feel like a lot of people are not calling out. The mainstream media, you tweeted this, the mainstream media is announcing with 0 votes cast that Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee for president. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm excited, sarcastically here. Think about what this will mean for America if Kamala Harris wins. So here's the thing. A lot of people aren't even talking about the fact that no one voted for her, Lee. Not one person. And I told people about this before because I've interviewed the Becks. They were the lawyers that were part of the DNC fraud lawsuit. And they told me, they warned about this. They tried to tell people, even if you look at the election right now, they said the DNC legally, and this was decided by a judge, they can pick the nominee. There's nothing you can do about it because it's a corporation. And you would think more Americans will wake up to this and say, wait a minute, did I vote for Kamala Harris? Did anybody vote for her? No, but people are just like, yay, I'm so excited. Yay. I'm like, do you guys realize what is happening? They handpicked a person for you. And what's wild is that even Barack Obama wanted an open nomination, an open primary. So what does that tell you guys?
Yeah, and hilariously, like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and these others who run the Democratic elites, they came forward after, it was about 2 days, maybe 3, after Biden said he was stepping aside, and they had a press conference, and Chuck Schumer said, you know, Kamala Harris said she wanted to earn this nomination by a grassroots effort, bottom up instead of top down. And Chuck Schumer goes, and now that she's done that, we're excited to endorse. And I was like, done that? Done what? There's been not a single vote from anyone across America putting her in as the Democratic nominee. And for those keeping score at home, in case you're, playing your Democratic rigged primary bingo, this is the 3rd election in a row that the DNC has rigged in one way or another in order to put someone in who was not winning the Democratic nomination. 3rd in a row, 2016, 2020, and now here.
That's right. And the other thing too, I think, some people think for whatever reason that she should be the one because she is the vice president. And they're like, well, at least she's not Joe Biden and she's younger than him and that kind of thing. But nobody's sitting here thinking about what this really means. So I thought it was funny that you said this part here. You said, finally, a woman will be the face of genocide. Finally, a female will be the one deciding to drop bombs on children on a daily basis. Think of how far this country has come. And that's the other thing, too. There are a number of people that I've seen online, in person, by the way. Only one person has told me in person that they're voting for Kamala Harris. Nobody else has said that. Most people have told me that they're not voting at all. That's just the reality. If you talk to people on the street and you get offline or you stop watching like corporate media and what they're telling you with these focus groups that they put together, because it's not like, everyday people. But the thing is like the people online that are like, I just want a woman president. I'm like, guys, didn't we go through this in 2016 with Hillary Clinton where people were like, I'm with her? I've seen pictures online of Kamala Harris with that same phrase, I'm with her. And I feel like nobody's really learned anything from 2016. If the only reason you're going to vote for someone is because they're a female, what is wrong with you?
Right. It's, this is what the American empire has vomited up in order to try and sustain hegemony, while everyone is looking around going, wow, I see genocide being committed by Israel. It's U.S. backed. These are U.S. bombs. The Biden administration ships missiles to Israel to bomb children every 36 hours during this entire 9 months of genocide. And people look around and they go, well, the answer is if you put a female face, if you put a black face, if on these disgusting actions, then it somehow fixes them. No, I would love to have a black female running this country if they had different policies than the absolutely horrific white men that have come before them. That's kind of part of the key, is to have different policies. And instead, she stands for all the same shit. It really is no different in terms of what she supports. She supports this genocide being committed by Israel. She has received more AIPAC money than almost anyone else. She supports the proxy war in Ukraine. There is really no difference in terms of her policies. And she'll say things like, we've got to worry about the children in Gaza or something like that, which are, this is just words that are, Biden said the same thing, or Biden's spokespeople have said the same thing. Oh, we got, it's too many children dying in Gaza. They won't say we're not going to ship the missiles to murder those children. They just say, oh, there's too many children dying in Gaza. It's words versus actions. It's words versus policies. And there is nothing about Kamala Harris that has shown that she's against U.S. genocide, against U.S. hegemony, against the proxy war in Ukraine, against any of this corporate destruction of the world. And none of this is meant to be positive speech about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just a slightly different shade of color, more orange, of the utter destruction of the world by the U.S. empire. So me criticizing Kamala Harris as being the, hey, female face of genocide is not to say Donald Trump's any different. They both of them put us on the cusp of nuclear annihilation. I mean, it's tough to even come to terms with how close to possible nuclear oblivion we've been with this proxy war in Ukraine, where it's gotten so bad that you've got British spy planes, and this was admitted by the Washington Post and others, on the border, in the sky off of Russia, and Russia, thinking it was not British planes, fired at the plane, shot missiles at this plane, and luckily missed twice. And if they had hit this British spy plane, who knows where we'd be now? Who knows what the next move would have been? And to be on the cusp of nuclear annihilation like this, and both of the so-called legitimate options, the two-party system that's actually won, both of them pushing for basically more, it's just horrific. It's just sad. It's a waning empire that is grasping at straws.
No, I agree with you 100%. And especially when it comes to Gaza, all of a sudden, a lot of the people that were pro-Palestine just instantly jumped on board with Kamala Harris as if she doesn't have the same policies as Joe Biden does when it comes to that particular issue. So even in the speech that she gave recently, what did she say? The same thing that Joe Biden has been saying. She said that Israel has a right to defend itself, and that she has unwavering support for Israel, which means she will continue to give Israel weapons, which means that America will continue to be Israel's bitch or whatever. The other thing, too, is that she takes AIPAC money. So I'm asking people online, I'm like, wait a minute. So now all of a sudden genocide is not the red line because the Democratic Party put a female who's a woman of color in front of you. Now all of a sudden you're willing to waver on genocide. And this just goes to show you, Lee, just how desperate people are for some type of a hero. And I continue to tell people nobody is coming to save you and that we have to save ourselves. But that just baffles my mind how all of a sudden genocide is not a red line anymore.
Yeah, really well said. I've been saying recently that I have two of my biggest red lines. I might have a few more, but two of my biggest red lines are: if you support this ongoing genocide by Israel against Gaza, against Palestinians, and I don't know if it matters to people, but I'm Jewish, and guess what? You can be an anti-Zionist Jew, and that is a thing. There are millions of us around the world, and in fact, there are more Zionist Christians in America than there are Jews in the world. For those, Israel has done a lot of work to try and make people conflate Zionism with Judaism, act like they're the same thing, and they are not. But I'd say that's one red line I have. And one of the biggest other ones is you've got to actually be doing something about climate crisis in some regard. And the Biden administration, this is reported by Reuters, so this is not just, some kind of lunatic reporting this, that Biden administration has pumped more oil and opened more land for drilling than the Trump administration did. The Biden administration has also increased sanctions, which are, it's a nice word, it's a nice cuddly word for economic war, on other countries more than even the Trump administration did. So much so that according to even the Washington Post, we are now at war, economic war and other, with 1/3 of the world. The U.S. is at war with 1/3 of the world in one way or another. And that's being done by both Republicans and Democrats. They all support 90% of the core issues of this country. And instead, they've done a great job of getting us to fight each other rather than uniting as a working class against the ruling elite. So much of the propaganda they spit out is designed to get us to hate each other rather than going at the actual cause of our problems, which is the ruling elite, the sociopaths at the top of the system. And it's amazing to see all the infighting of the working class. I mean, it's just, it takes a lot of propaganda, but it's been successful.
100%. And that brings me to Israel. So it's really interesting that Netanyahu was able to just come into this country to speak to Congress. This guy who's murdered.
Sabby, I gotta correct you. He didn't just come to this country. He's American. He grew up here, and so this is his country. So.
There's that too. But no, according to him, he's indigenous to the land. But we get into that another time. But anyway, he walks into Congress after he's murdered all these people, and to see all these congressmen stand up and clap for him, and some of the things that he said about the Palestinian people and the things that he said about the protesters, no pushback, standing ovations. It is utterly disgusting. And for me, what that told me, the way that he was coming after the protesters, is that we really got under his skin. We really got to him to the point where he felt like he had to address it, because the reality is around the world, Israel is losing support. I just read something the other day that now Canada is calling for a ceasefire. The UK made a statement recently saying that if Netanyahu steps foot in the UK, he would be arrested. Like other countries.
Yeah, the UK is not protesting or standing up against the ICC arrest warrant, which is pretty incredible.
Nope. No, like other countries are turning against him. And these are other countries in the West that are turning against him. And the U.S. government is still just like, oh, we got to protect Israel. No, we don't. And I want to get your opinion about what do you think is going to happen going forward, because I predicted they would drag this out through the elections, that this would not be resolved before November, because I feel like the Biden administration was kind of holding on to this as a push for people to come out and support them instead of Donald Trump. And they'll say, oh, well, we'll be less genocidal than Donald Trump will be or whatever. But genocide is genocide. But what do you think is going to happen to Israel? Because now they're closely raging a war with Hezbollah, which they know they cannot beat. I just saw a statement from Turkey's leader, and he just said that if we have to go to war with Israel, we will. He's making a statement against Israel now. Iran obviously has been making statements against Israel and is not afraid to fight Israel if need be. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, Israel as an apartheid oppressive regime is in a catch-22, especially Netanyahu himself. But he views it as an existential threat to himself to not have a larger war. He wants a larger war, but he also is well aware that if they go full on at Iran and perhaps even Hezbollah, Israel's not actually equipped to deal with them. Yeah, they have nuclear bombs, but other than nuking the whole region, I mean, they'd get hit with nuclear bombs if they used them. Other than nuking the whole region, they do not have the ability to likely beat Hezbollah and Iran. I mean, definitely not Iran. Many people don't understand what happened with the 300 projectiles that were shot by Iran at the Iron Dome. Now, obviously, Iran only did that as a response to having many of their diplomats murdered, assassinated by Israel as their consulate was bombed. So then Iran responded with the 300. Many were drones, some were missiles. But what people don't seem to understand is 86% now, the IDF says, of those were shot down. But of the 14% that were not shot down, that was the actual ones that Iran wanted to get through, the hypersonic missiles. All of those got through. So Iran proved that they're with 4 countries trying to shoot all these things down, Iran can actually get through the Iron Dome. So Israel is not protected. They are actually fully open to Iranian strikes. And yet Netanyahu needs more war. He needs the U.S. to get fully, and the U.S. is obviously hyper involved, but fully involved with war with Iran, or at least war with Lebanon, that in order for Netanyahu to not get kicked out of his office, but also perhaps to not end up in jail. Now, this doesn't mean that Israelis are opposed to continuing the genocide. Something like 90% of Israelis want the genocide in Gaza to continue, but a large percentage of them want Netanyahu out of office. So we have many U.S. officials who are trying to shift the onus onto Netanyahu. Man, Netanyahu is screwed up. Again, bad apple, right? It's like the guy that killed Sonia Massey. It's a bad apple who's committing this genocide. But in fact, the U.S. and most Israelis want the actual ethnic cleansing, the genocide going on in Gaza to continue. They just don't want Netanyahu in office. So there is reports that Netanyahu, during his meetings here in the U.S., he was able to get approval from the U.S. for a larger war with Hezbollah, with Lebanon. So that very well may happen. And again, he views that as something that he needs to protect Israel. But the U.S. will never, Israel and the U.S. are part of the U.S. empire, and the U.S. is not going. They may withhold a shipment of missiles here or build a ridiculous fake pier that they've now gotten rid of there, but they're not actually going to back off of helping Israel with this genocide at any time.
Do you think it'll get to the point where they send U.S. troops to help Israel?
I think they very much are fighting that. I mean, certainly if they were to do that, they'd probably wait till after the election. Although, for those who care, there actually are U.S. troops in Israel facilitating this genocide. They're just not fighting in Gaza. But even the New York Times has said the CIA is helping Israel to assassinate Palestinians. There's just many ways that the U.S. troops are involved. Also, the pier had U.S. troops on it. So apparently boots on the ground is different from flip-flops in the sand, I guess. I don't know.
It's an absolute mess. Why do you think some people are hesitant to, and this is what I said to people about that uncommitted campaign. I said, okay, it's a good idea to withhold your vote, but I do feel like Rashida Tlaib should have been ushering those voters to support the candidates that are pro-Palestine, that are against this war, that are against genocide, etc. And of course, there was no push for that. So it's just this uncommitted vote, which was under Joe Biden and is now under Kamala Harris, according to that uncommitted movement. But to me, I'm like, if you're serious, why don't you just vote for the people who are for that? Why do you think more people are hesitant to do that?
Well, I mean, for me, it has to do with more than just Gaza. It has to do with not being for this horrific military state. But as to why there's not getting more support, I mean, some of it has to do with money. There's just so much money that floods in to those who are for Israel, and the money floods against anyone who's pro-Palestine. That's by design. That's how our system is. Another way our system is rigged is, money's about half the rigging. You look at the rigging of primaries and et cetera. So much of it has to do with just money and data. The DNC controls all the data, so they won't give the data to anyone who's pro-Palestine. I mean, it's just so many levels of rigging that goes on in these systems.
Yeah, it's absolutely a mess, because I just feel like, and I want to get your opinion about the third party independent candidates as well, because I do feel like a couple of months ago, there was a big, or seemed like more of a bigger movement towards that, where people were like, yeah, there was a lot more momentum. I felt like there was a lot more energy around it. As we get closer to November, especially now that Kamala Harris has been announced as the nominee for the Democratic Party, I'm noticing even someone like RFK Jr., who, by the way, folks, is horrible on Israel and Gaza as well. Even he is now losing support now that Kamala Harris has been announced. What do you think is happening there?
I mean, there's always an excitement and a fresh face. So that's some of it. Many believe these polls are going to even out. But yeah, some people, I guess, they're excited about third parties until push comes to shove. I mean, there's also just immense propaganda to tell you that third parties don't matter, to tell you that you have to vote blue no matter who, because clearly anything that rhymes must be true. So there's just there's so much effort to make you think third parties are meaningless. And I think they can have a very important impact, especially on the ideals, the points that are put forward. Many of the things that have been stolen by Democrats and then watered down started in the Green Party. So yeah, I think in terms of ideas, I think they're very important, and speaking of, earlier we were making fun of a female face to genocide. Guess what? There's females running who are not a face to genocide, like Jill Stein and Claudia de la Cruz. But God forbid we ever talk about anything outside of the two garbage, capitalist, exploitative, disgusting parties.
Right. They did this in 2016 too. They said that if you were against Hillary Clinton, that you were misogynistic. And I'm like, there are other women running as well. But, right. They know what they're doing when they make that type of statement. Yeah.
Also, I'm the campaign manager for a rock that I found in my yard. If anyone wants to check that out, running for president, yardrock2024.com. And a rock in the Oval Office would be so much better. I am sorry. I am sorry. I got to run, Sabby, but I really.
Yes, past time.
I really do love talking to you. And if people want to check out my live streams, 4 days a week on YouTube and Rumble.
All right, Lee. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Bye. All right, guys, that was Lee Camp. Definitely check out his show, Dangerous Ideas with Lee Camp on YouTube. Also, Lee's also a comedian. So who knows, in the future, he could be coming to a location near you, or maybe your location. You never know. But yeah, it's so much happening right now, guys. Sunday show for me is, I don't know why, but it looks a little bit darker in here than it usually does. Anyway, Sunday show for me is a little bit more lighthearted. So I only have one heavy story today, and that is an update with what happened in Gaza over the weekend. But other than that, the other stories are not heavy. I try not to do heavy Sunday just because it's starting the week. And I know, you're starting the work week and all that kind of stuff. So that type of deal. So really quick, I do want to make sure I shout out patrons. We're going to look at that thumbnail, and then we're going to go ahead and dive into the other stories that I have today. Yeah. What's up? Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you, fam. All right. If we're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters in the mix. They're doing the damn thing. Don't forget about those Sabby Zabbies. There they are. And of course, they're also members. Dun, dun, dun. All of their names are listed here, and you can see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker as well. And I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give a big shout out to Gaza West. That's a base name. Kung Su and Faza Amba. Welcome. And thank you so much for joining the fam. Joining the fam. Okay. What else are we going to talk about, guys? Let's show that thumbnail, folks. Roll that beautiful bean footage. Here we go. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing, of course, Lee Camp was just here. We're also going to discuss, yes, I got some news for you. Swing state voters speak out, and I have new polls from the swing states. These are different from what I showed you on, I think it was Thursday I showed you swing state polls. Believe it or not, those numbers have already changed again that fast. We're going to hear from swing state voters from Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And I'm also going to show you the update of where the polling results are there. We're also going to talk about, this is a doozy. Yah. Again, I told you Sunday is more of a lighthearted show. Tyler Perry is big mad. Why is he upset? Who pissed off Tyler Perry? Is it warranted? I have a lot to say about that. Billionaire, big mad. We're also going to discuss Israel strikes school in Gaza. We'll get into that. There were 2 strikes that happened over the weekend. There was Gaza and there was also the Golan Heights as well. And I don't know if you heard about this story, but if you are not following Seymour Hersh Substack, make sure that you check that out, because Seymour Hersh has dropped a bombshell over the weekend, came in through my inbox, and I was like, what the hell? And that is the Biden sabotage exposed. So shout out to Seymour Hersh for doing the damn thing. We're going to get into all of those stories, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give a shout out to people in the chat. Thank you for the super chat. Thomas, don't you dare badmouth Mamala. It's her time. Deal with it. Yin Yang, will Sabby give us an update on Finkelstein and how he's been managing over this evil conflict lately? You know what? That's a good question. I haven't spoken to Norm Finkelstein in a while. I should reach back out and see how he is doing there. Thank you for that reminder. Joanne says, Lee Camp and Sabrina Salvati expanding the horizon if understanding. Whoop, whoop. Thank you. And 324 says Lee and Sabby are best. Thank you so much. That is really sweet. Dun, dun, dun. Let's get the heavy story out of the way first, because again, like I said, I like to end on a lighter note. So we're going to start with the Israel strike update. So ladies and gentlemen, while everyone was tuning into the Olympics on Friday, Israel decided to attack another school in Gaza. You know, they have this tendency to make these attacks when there's something else that the world may be distracted by. And a lot of people were watching the Olympics. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. There were 2 strikes that happened. Israel's strike on Gaza school killed 30 kids, 30 people from the health ministry. This is coming from the BBC. And you can see the damage here. Like I said, you guys, like Gaza is just, it's destroyed. Like, I don't know how you come back from this other than rebuilding. This is absolutely ridiculous. Israel's military has struck a school near Deir al-Balah, a city in central Gaza, killing at least 30 Palestinians and injuring more than 100. That is according to Hamas-run Ministry of Health. Notice how they always include that, because they say Hamas-run Ministry of Health because they want you to doubt. Right? They want you to doubt the numbers and the casualties. The IDF said on Telegram that a Hamas command and control center was embedded inside the Khadija school. The IDF added that Hamas used the compound as a hiding place to direct and plan attacks and store weapons. Now, I want you to think about when you hear this framing, because they always say that Hamas was embedded at the site that they chose to attack. But you don't hear about them attacking Hamas people. It's always these kids that were killed, civilians that were killed. And of all the attacks that Israel has done to Gaza, Hamas is still well alive. Now, they claim there have been a couple here and there that they have destroyed, but for the most part, out of all the people, they've killed all those people in Gaza, and they still haven't managed to defeat Hamas, because I don't think that they can defeat Hamas. So just keep that in mind. Gaza's health ministry said footage showed the victims were civilians and most of them were children. Again, Israel killing children. Think about what just happened this week. Benjamin Netanyahu was just here, just spoke to Congress. So you have that. Then on top of that, you had the Olympics. There's a lot of things that were going on, a lot of different moving pieces. So essentially, they assume when something is happening and we're not paying attention, whether it's the Super Bowl, whether it's something in the entertainment world or whatever, this is when they tend to try to do these little sneaky attacks. It goes on to say, the BBC verified a video that shows children among the injured. So you see this? Even the BBC said that they were able to prove that kids were injured. This is an absolute disgrace, what is happening there. Gaza's Civil Defense Service said the school was sheltering displaced people. Hamas said in the statement on Telegram that the report that the school, oh, you guys got a typo there, report the school was being used for military purposes was false and displaced sick and wounded people, most of whom were women and children. So does everybody see the game that Israel plays now? They'll just continue to say that, oh, we got wind that Hamas was at that facility and that's why we decided to strike it. They're never required to provide any proof that Hamas was there. And all you continue to see are women and children that are dying, that are being killed because of these attacks. Nobody is making Israel verify that Hamas officials are at these locations. So they're not being held accountable. They just continue to get away with this. And they just give that excuse that, oh, we got wind that there was Hamas officials there. It's BS. Witness Mustafa told the BBC the explosion shook his body and he fell from the blow. Afraid, he said he ran inside the school and saw body parts in a terrifying scene. I was shocked, he said. Verified video from the scene shows a chaotic situation with people running around a compound covered in rubble. Men carry two bloody children in their arms while a woman hugs another, and a group carries an injured man on a stretcher. A body lies on the ground covered in a blanket. The IDF said that before the strike, it took steps to reduce the risk to civilians, including the use of appropriate munitions, aerial surveillance, and additional intelligence. We can all call BS on that. Gaza's health ministry said 53 people had been killed and 189 injured since Saturday morning due to the IDF bombing. Now, this is the IDF bombing in Deir al-Balah and the southern city of Khan Yunis. We talked about Khan Yunis a couple of days ago. The strike occurred as Israel continues its month-long military campaign in Gaza that has killed more than 39,000 Palestinians, according to Gaza's health ministry. So again, another attack that happened again over the weekend while a lot of people were paying attention to the Olympics. And that wasn't the only attack, because there was another one that I'm going to show you as well. But I want to take you back to 9 years ago, because I want you to know this did not start with October 7th. Israel attacking schools in Gaza has been going on for years. This video here from CNN, by the way, from CNN, who all of a sudden these commentators seem to be shocked and surprised that there has been a school that has been attacked in Gaza. I want to take you back to 9 years ago, where they talked about just that. 9 years ago, Israel attacks a school in Gaza. Listen to this.
So we have for you live now from Gaza City, Robert Turner, local director of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. So Robert Turner, welcome to you.
Thank you.
These civilians in Gaza, they are dying in supposed safe zones, these UN safe zones. Are you communicating with the Israelis to tell them where these safe zones are?
Okay, does that sound familiar to you guys? 9 years ago on CNN, they reported that the IDF was targeting safe zones in Gaza. Notice the headline. U.S. says Israeli strike on school appalling. Everybody see this? Who was president 9 years ago? So this is not new. And I'd like to go back to old footage just to, jog your memory and just to make it very clear to you that our government has known what Israel was doing for years. This is not new. This is why you have to push back on the October 7th rhetoric. When people come to you, when people tell you this all started on October 7th, you have to have, evidence like this to push back on them, to show them that they were targeting these schools, that they were killing these damn children before October 7th. This is on YouTube. This video is on YouTube. Right on CNN.
Absolutely, on a daily basis, sometimes more than once. The attack yesterday in Rafah, the location of that particular shelter, had been transmitted to the Israeli forces on 33 different occasions, the last just an hour before the attack. The Jabalia attack you mentioned, that was last week. that location had been transmitted 17 times, the last just the evening before the attack. They know where these buildings are. They know where these shelters are. They're supposed to be indicated on their maps, and they're supposed to be protected.
Okay, I wanted you to hear that part as well, because did you hear what he just said? They know where these facilities are. They know where these buildings are. Compare that to the rhetoric that you hear on corporate media today when they talk about Israel attacking a school or a refugee camp, right? Or another tent, right? They're not saying, well, they know where these things are. No. They're even interviewing soldiers from the IDF and saying, how could this have happened? And the IDF soldier goes, this was a mistake. This was not intentional. Everybody see the change in the rhetoric? This gentleman said on CNN that they knew where the buildings were. They knew where these locations were. Now, I don't know what happened to this woman. I don't know what she does now, but everybody remember this. This is why I continue to say all these speeches that you hear from, whether it's Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or whoever, this is all a game. It's all theater when they stand up and they say, well, Israel has a right to defend itself, but how they do so matters. They have known about this for years. They have known for years that Israel was killing these damn children. And now they're trying to pretend like this is a new thing because of October 7th. It's not a damn new thing. And people need to wake up. 9 years ago, Gaza. And there was another strike that happened over the weekend as well. Now, this one involves the Golan Heights. At least 10 people were killed in a rocket attack on a football pitch, soccer, for those who are not aware, in Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Now, I will say this to Sky News. Thank you for saying occupied, because it is occupied. Let's get into this story. Now, this one as well are a little bit different. With this particular attack, Israel is blaming it on Hezbollah. Hezbollah has made a statement saying that this was not them that did this attack. But what people have to understand is they say Israeli occupied, and the IDF has made the statement saying that Israelis were killed. The people that are particularly in that area, from what I understand, are Syrian. That is not supposed to be Israel's land. They are occupying it, just like they're occupying other parts. Let's get into this.
And we can speak to John live in Jerusalem now. John, let me start with focusing on this attack that we are hearing about from Lebanon to a town in the Golan Heights of Majd al-Shams, a rocket attack. We're hearing that 10 people have died. What more do we know?
Yeah, it sounds very nasty indeed. Israeli medical services reporting that there are a number of casualties between the ages of 10 and 20 years old. They're reporting that 9 people have died, perhaps as many as 11 casualties. Details just coming through at the moment. Some sort of projectile, a large projectile, hit a football pitch and a playground area in a community called Majd al-Shams. It's a community of about 11,000 people in the north of the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights is disputed territory that's been held by the Israelis, effectively annexed by them in the early 1980s.
Now, he said held. I'm going to change the word to occupied because it's important. That area is occupied by Israel.
Who's responsible? Well, the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, they have come forward. They say they have done an assessment. They have intelligence. They say the evidence is clear that Hezbollah is responsible for this. This is the Iran-backed organization backed in southern Lebanon.
I call BS on that because, number one, Hezbollah has said they were not responsible for this, and I'm more likely to believe them than I am to believe the IDF. Obviously, the IDF is notorious liars, so I'm going to tell you what I think happened. I think Israel did this attack themselves. I don't think it came from Hezbollah. We all know that has been confirmed by Israeli networks that Israel did use the Hannibal Directive on October 7th, so it would not surprise me if they have done this yet again, if they were willing to attack their own people. That does not surprise me. What Israel is doing is that they are using this as an example, and they'll probably include more, as to push for a war with Hezbollah. And then what they are going to do, I believe they're going to ask the US government for help, because they know they cannot beat Hezbollah. So they would need help from the West. Now, I already told you earlier, the UK has already made a statement. Things are changing over there. The UK has made a statement that if Netanyahu sets foot in the UK, he will be arrested. The UK is also now not refuting the ICJ ruling about the occupation. Canada has just announced they want an immediate ceasefire now. So who is Israel going to come to for help? They would come to the United States, even if that means getting our troops involved in this. That means they may be coming to get your brother, your sister, your friend, your significant other, to get them to fight in their bloody holy war. And that's not cool. That's not cool at all. But the US government, they have let this go on for too damn long. And I told you, I warned you that they would expand this war. And here we are. Israel has been attacking Lebanon for months. For months. And Hezbollah is not supposed to respond to them. They've been bombing Lebanon. They've been bombing Syria. We all know what they've been doing to the Palestinian people. Like I said, Israel is a bully on the playground and they just want to beat people up, but you're not supposed to hit them back. So this is where we are now. And they are willing to drag you into it. Everyone needs to push back on this. The US government does not need to be involved in any of Israel's wars. And that includes a war with Iran, by the way, because they wouldn't be able to beat them either. They would try to get us to go to war with them. What is JD Vance saying now? Go to war. We need to go against Iran. No, the fuck we don't. I don't see Iran bothering us. Maybe you need to leave Iran alone. Maybe we need to leave Israel alone. Maybe we need to separate ourselves from Israel altogether. And I called for it before. AIPAC needs to be removed from electoral politics. Get it out of it. Get these politicians out of Israel's back pocket, and you'll probably see a difference in our foreign policy. But as long as the Israeli lobby is controlling our politicians, we're headed towards World War III. Whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, we are headed towards World War III. Someone has to stop this. Because I don't know about you, because I don't want to be a part of this. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to be a part of this. Don't think that the US is not untouchable. We cannot win against Iran. Let's go on a little bit more here.
Hezbollah's media representative, very quick to come out this evening, he said that Hezbollah had absolutely nothing to do with this incident. But what we do know, multiple rockets were fired from Lebanon into Israel. We know that the sirens went off, and we know that Israel's air defense system, its Iron Dome shield, it did not intercept these projectiles, the projectile or projectiles. I can tell you that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, he has been informed. He will have an emergency meeting, we understand, this evening, and I think that we can expect a significant response against Hezbollah from the Israelis in the coming days.
So as I said before, I do not believe that Hezbollah is responsible for this. I believe this is Israel, and I believe that Israel is trying to wage a larger war in the Middle East. And honestly, if I were you guys, and I've said this on the show before, if you have friends or family members that are in the military, and I get it, listen, my family, a lot of my family members were in the military as well. They're not anymore. But if I were you, tell your friends and your family members to get out of the military while they can. Because your friends and family members don't need to go fight these wars just for for profit. This is all a money laundering scheme. And for what? You would have thought people learned after the war in Vietnam, but no. Like I said, there's a lot of money to be made in war. Tell your kids, do not join the military. Tell your kids not to go fight in these wars. That's my message to the world. Get out of the military while you can. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Kinman. Israel will get away with atrocities. Isn't it like crazy? By the way, Israel's economy is falling apart. Not too many people trying to do tourism in Israel right now because of what's going on. So their economy is falling apart. TD, I still don't know why they gave Obama a peace Nobel or Nobel Peace Prize. What a joke. Yeah. Oh, I believe they gave one to Henry Kissinger too. It's crazy, isn't it? Thank you for the super chat, MCFC. Thanks. You are welcome. Thank you for this super chat, Kinman. Obama, we had to genocide some folks. Right, I know. I was thinking about all the people that were killed in Libya. Thank you, Shalon Flores. Nina Simone's family has been calling out Kamala for 3 years because she took the estate from the family and assigned it to a white family that gets all the royalties, including the sample on Jay-Z's song. Per usual, media is mute. So I looked into this a little bit as to why, I'll tell you why I haven't covered this story. I did look into this a little bit. And what I found is that apparently they were able to get away with this because they went by what was in the will. So until I have an opportunity to go to be able to find what was in that will, if I can find the actual documents, then I can cover that. But before then, I don't want to jump the gun on that if I haven't had a chance to look at what was in that will. So give me a couple days on that. Denise says, Israel has been trying to get us to go to war with Iran for decades. Because Israel wants the whole area. They want all of that. And thank you for the super chat, Nathan. Hi, Sabby. Thanks for spitting truth. Could you shine a little light on AIPAC GOP puppet Wesley Bell trying to unseat Cori Bush in St. Louis for the House? Yes. So I've called him out on Twitter, as so has Track AIPAC. But I can tell you guys a little bit about him, hopefully, this week. Yeah, so Wesley Bell is a Black guy. And what they're trying to do is unseat Cori Bush, who's a Black woman. They're trying to unseat her with another Black person so that it doesn't look like controversial in any type of way. And it's misleading to a lot of people because what Wesley Bell was, I guess, trying to keep secret, which was announced, is that he's just another AIPAC puppet. Track AIPAC caught that. They caught it. Yes, indeed. All right, guys, if you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. Thank you very much. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And we're on a roll. Now it is time for announcements. We have 2 announcements that I want to make, and I want to let everybody know. A number of times people are asking about getting involved. So this was sent to me. If you live in New York, I believe you can go in person. If you don't live in New York, you can attend virtually. So anyway, New York State. This is important, guys. This is coming up. New York State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies public meeting. So the New York State Community Commission on Reparation Remedies will meet on Tuesday, July 30th at 2:30 p.m. So that's this week, guys, for those of you who want to attend this. The meeting will be held in the Blue Room, State Capitol, 2nd floor of Albany, New York. So that's in the upstate New York area. If you cannot attend in person, the meeting is open to the public. The meeting is also available on a live webcast at, Vimeo. I'll put the link in the chat for that. A web video of the meeting will be available on the OGS website as well. And they also list further information. I'm just going to put the entire link to this in the chat for those of you who are in the area, or if you just want to attend virtually as well. And I love to make these announcements that are happening locally, because the reality is, a lot of times I hear you guys say like your voice isn't heard, or that your representatives don't listen to you. You don't get a chance to get a word in. Here's one of those opportunities. So especially for all of you that live in New York, if you can make it there, check it out, or you can attend virtually. That's Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. So that's one of the announcements. The other announcement that I want to make, this is a new event for the RBN Boston chapter. For those of you who are new and don't know, I'm also a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. And one of the things that we do is mutual aid. So we are organizers. And I was an organizer before I was a podcaster. So I've been doing volunteer work ever since I've been in high school. And one of the things that we decided to do with RBN is we wanted to try to do some of the things that the Black Panthers did that actually helped out the community. And one of those is mutual aid. So we've done events before. Last year, I did a summer community barbecue with other members of the Boston chapter. And we also did a food and clothing drive last year as well. And now this year coming up, this is a big one for the kids, because this is the back to school barbecue that is going to be Sunday, August 18th at 12 p.m. We are donating school supplies to students that live in the Roxbury neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. For those who don't know, Roxbury is one of the poorest neighborhoods in Boston. If you want to get involved, the greatest need tends to be in Roxbury and in Dorchester. So that's usually where we try to host our events. But we are going to be donating school supplies. So we already had the list of all the items that are required for kids in Roxbury for the school year. Shout out to Kate from the Boston chapter for getting that list. We've already started collecting some of those supplies, and we'll be collecting more. And while they're there, we're going to feed them, because I don't like just giving people stuff and having them leave. I don't like things just to be a drop off and pick up kind of thing. Like, you don't build community that way. So I like for people to be able to sit down and eat. And we have all this planned out. Like, I have the tables and everything. So they'll be able to collect supplies, and they'll also be able to have a barbecue as well. That is going to be at the Bruce C. Bowling Municipal Building on the first floor lobby, 2300 Washington Street in Roxbury. Again, that is school supplies we're donating, and of course, the barbecue itself. We are raising funds for that. I think I just posted it. Some people already donated. Oh yeah, they did. That was fast. RBN Boston chapter is donating school supplies to Roxbury community in Boston and hosting a barbecue at the event. Please donate whatever you can to help. And you can donate anonymously, you guys. I know sometimes people don't like to list their name, and I totally understand that. So like some of these are anonymous, which is totally fine. And I'll just share this with you guys here. This is how we raised money for the back to school drive as well. Not back to school, I'm sorry, the clothing drive as well. So I'll just put the link there. I'll also send this out in my newsletter as well. We're going to be fundraising for this up until the event. We usually do pretty well with these fundraising events. So I'm looking forward to it. And this one's a little bit more special because it's for the students, right? I don't know if you guys know, fam, but it was brought to my attention. Apparently, like, these schools are asking kids now to bring headphones or like the little earbuds to school as part of school supplies. Like, when I was growing up and I was a kid, it was like notebooks, pencils, crayons, like glue, that kind of stuff. But now it's like they need dry erase markers. Like, these things are not cheap. I was like, because we were going over the list earlier before I did the show. We had a meeting, the Boston chapter, and Kate was just going through the list of what Roxbury schools are requiring the kids to have. And I was like, good grief, how does anyone afford all that? Right? Especially if you're lower income. So these things are expensive now. And I was like, oh, hell to the no. So we're going to try to help them out there, back to school supplies with the barbecue as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's another thing I want to tell you guys. I know a lot of you guys you know, you look at electoral politics and you're like, man, these candidates suck. Or you guys are like, none of these presidents actually fix anything, or they don't solve the real, you know, meat and potato issues. And it's true a lot of times. And that's why I have found that kind of solace in organizing. And not everyone is an activist, but one of the things I can recommend is getting involved in your community, because elections come and go. And when these elections are over, those of us that organize, we still have the organizing to go back to. And that's something that I've actually seen help people in the community, not the president of the United States, not even the city councilors, not the mayors, and not the damn governor. So we have to look, this is what I mean when I say we have to help ourselves. So looking forward to that event. Yeah. Yeah. Excited. Someone said in the chat, what was that, Ani? Someone said in the chat, school supplies are expensive now. Yeah, like I was like, holy shit. What is this, Tabitha? You should interview the Simone family, Sabby. That would be an interesting interview, food for thought. I can try to find them. I know I did try to find the daughter that made the claim about the estate, but I don't think that account is still present anymore. It was posted on Twitter and I don't think it's present anymore. So I'd have to dig a little deeper into that. But yeah, let me know if you know how to reach the Simone family. Email me, let me know. Yeah. Okay. Let's get to our next story, shall we? Swing state voters. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have the opportunity now to hear from swing state voters in Wisconsin and from Pennsylvania. Now, I've told you before, this election comes down to the swing states. Just a reality. We all know California is not going to be red, at least not in this election, right? So MSNBC interviewed Wisconsin voters about what they are looking for and what they feel is not, I guess, satisfying for them about Kamala Harris, why they will not be supporting her. And we also have another group that was interviewed by NBC in Pennsylvania. Both of these groups are different. They're different racially, and you also notice a difference with the gender as well. I don't know what that was all about. It's kind of weird. But you may notice, even though these groups are different, they seem to want similar things. Let's get started with the Wisconsin focus group here. And what are they worried about? First thing you're going to notice is it's all women. And I don't know why they don't have any men. When I saw this video, I was like, why are there no guys? They didn't interview any men. So I don't know, but here we go. Wisconsin Trump voters on Vice President Harris. Everyone needs to hear this. This is a swing state.
How do you perceive Vice President Harris compared to President Biden in terms of competency and experience?
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was supposed to be doing and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in jeopardy. Well,
we're going to pause here about the border. So again, while I do not support President Trump, she's correct there. She's right. Kamala Harris was assigned to the border, and a lot of people have been complaining about it, and not just on the right, by the way. Democrats, I had Black Democrats on this show complaining about what was happening at the border. So this is complaints I'm hearing from both sides, and that was assigned to Kamala Harris. That is something that Kamala Harris is going to have to answer for, particularly during the debates, but ultimately with this election.
it isn't. It not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring, would make you consider voting for her?
No. Never consider voting for her. No. I would do RFK Jr. way before her.
Same.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart.
How do you perceive?
So I want you guys to think about what was said there, right? Now, all women. So some of the comments that were made is that they don't think that Kamala Harris is smart. One of the women called her an idiot. There's that. But if you notice, they're all women, so they can't really call them misogynist, right? Now, I don't know if I would go as far as to call Kamala Harris an idiot. I will say, if someone were to ask me, do I think that Kamala is prepared for this and ready for this? No. Simply because she was given one task, and that was the border. And she has not completed, fulfilled, or improved what she was supposed to do with the border. So I would say, no, I don't think she's ready. When we get to the Biden sabotage story, you'll understand also why I'm saying what I'm saying, because there's a lot more that's been revealed now behind the scenes by Seymour Hersh. So we can get into all that as well. So I think that's a big part of it. And I guess I kind of understand why they had all women, because if they would have had men and maybe a man said that, then people would say, oh, they're just being misogynistic. But these are all women. That one woman said, if I didn't do my job, I would be fired. So these are things to think about. Do I think that some of the criticism towards Kamala Harris can be a little bit harsh and unfair? Yes. But when it comes to doing the job, again, her job was the border. And we can't erase that, guys. We can't erase that. Now we are moving to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. This panel is going to look a lot different. All Black voters. And I want you to hear what they have to say, because I want to prove a point. Different states, different races, but listen to what they have to say.
Does everybody know who they're voting for? Or is anybody undecided still?
I'm very undecided.
Undecided.
Right now, inflation. So I'm monitoring who's talking the most about inflation. Re-entry. I would like to see everyone who is a criminal with federal charges still be able to vote. If we can have a criminal for president, we need to allow some voting rights back that were taken illegally.
Pause. Did everyone notice the first thing that she said before we get to the criminality part? The first thing that came out of that woman's mouth was inflation. I am paying attention to who is talking about inflation. She said she is undecided. Now, why is this important? It's important because I have been calling this out all year. The Biden administration, which is now, I guess, essentially Kamala Harris administration, has not been honest with the American people about the economy. And you can lie to people as much as you want to, but people see it when they go to the stores. They see the price increase. They see their wallet. They know what's really happening. And they have been avoiding this issue. They've been trying to skirt around the economy by claiming that we created all these jobs. Great. That's nice. But the American people don't have a living wage to be able to take care of themselves, especially with the inflation that they've had to deal with the past couple of years. That is a problem. And it is a mistake of the Biden administration, which would include Kamala Harris, for them to sit here and pretend like economics is not a factor. It is a mistake for Kamala Harris to deny that there's an issue with inflation. The American people are not stupid. When I get to the survey that I received, I'm going to show you just how much they're trying to downplay this and pretend like the economy is not an issue. And it is going to be a problem. Mark my words. This will be a problem for Kamala Harris if they do not find a way to deal with the economic despair that people have in this country. And you don't fix that just by creating new jobs. We don't know what these jobs are paying people. The average American is not making a living wage. The average American is living paycheck to paycheck. And if they have any unexpected expense come up, for example, their car breaks down or whatever, or a medical expense, these people are this close to being evicted. And I've seen it happen to people in real life. So you can't skirt around, you can't dance around this issue. And a lot of the people who are dancing around it, like I had a little back and forth with Roland Martin on Twitter earlier today, you can afford to dance around it. A lot of people who are part of the boule, they can dance around this because they have the money to dance around it. But if you go into communities where people are lower income, they can't ignore this issue. So listen to what this woman is saying.
In the first place.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
Who do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps.
And this is what I've been telling people about the grocery prices. Now, she mentioned a vegetable. The meat prices are ridiculous. Like, that's a $3 increase. Okay, so she mentioned food stamps. And this is something, again, like I said, if you've never been a part of this community, if you don't know what it's like to have to, use food stamps because you don't make enough money to pay for groceries on your own, I mean, you're given a certain amount. The Biden administration cut SNAP benefits. We can't skirt over this. We can't dance around this. The Biden administration cut SNAP benefits during a pandemic. Now they want to brag and say that they helped end half of child poverty. Then you turned around and you cut SNAP benefits and they kicked people off of Medicaid. They kicked people off of unemployment. So you can't sit up here and pretend like this is not an issue. It's an issue. Now, for those who push back and say, well, people should work hard, so that way they shouldn't have to be on food stamps. Just because you work hard doesn't mean you're making a living wage. I know people that work 2-3 jobs. They still not making a living wage. The rent continues to increase and you have inflation and you have the increase of grocery prices. Something has to give. Let's go on.
Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves.
Everyone hear this again. And I bet you JB would identify with this as well. Also, because again, my comrade JB talks about this all the time. He's on disability. Listen to what she says.
Working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5. Imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us.
Everybody hear that? They're killing us without killing us. They don't care about poor people. Both parties like to talk about the middle class. That's always a big thing, right? The middle class. Like we got to fix the middle class and all that kind of stuff. They don't ever want to talk about poor people, though. If you're poor, you're not even mentioned. Some people are born poor. And no, contrary to what Oprah Winfrey would have you believe, not everybody can be an Oprah Winfrey. That is far and rare. She's an outlier. Most people that are born poor will never get to that position. That's just the reality, folks. So yeah, they're killing you it's a different way of killing you. Because if you have to pay more for groceries, that means like, if you have a medical issue, you may have to just skip going to the doctor because you can't afford it. You may have health insurance, but maybe it's inadequate. So you can't afford another bill. This is a common thing for people who have lived in, lower income communities. My family grew up poor in Baltimore in the projects. My dad had 7 brothers and sisters. My mom had 5 brothers and sisters. They both grew up poor. And what people may not understand, if you've never had to go through that, it is not uncommon for people who are poor to skip going to the doctor because they can't afford the medicine, or they can't afford the doctor bill, or the insurance that they have isn't enough to even cover just the visit alone, let alone if the doctor wants to run a couple of tests. This is a reality. Let's continue.
If you understand that they're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children, and I don't. But
and that's a reality, folks. That's a reality. If you're in the chat and you grew up poor, let's say your parents grew up poor or you grew up poor, say yes, type yes in the chat. Because my grandparents went through this. There were often times where my grandmother would not eat so that her kids could eat.
Or how about feed my children, and I don't, but I have to go work.
Who feels as if Black voters are taken for granted, i.e., they make you promises and they don't deliver? What do you care about most right now?
Okay, let's look at the hands. Who feels that Black voters are taken for granted?
Black voters are taken for granted, i.e., they make you promises and they don't deliver. What do you care about most right now?
What are they going to do for my people that lives in the communities where I am from?
Okay, every one of them raised their hand. Now, with this voter group in Pennsylvania, we have men and women, different ages. All of them raised their hand and they said, yeah, the government doesn't care about us. They don't care about the Black voters. They're not doing anything for us. Now, I saw a number of you in the chat said yes, that you grew up poor. So you know what it's like. Either you grew up poor or your parents grew up poor. So you know what it's like. And this has been, Akil, I'm sorry, I was going to put you up here. I don't know what happened. We've been taken for granted. Yeah. And people continue to go out and vote. This is why, and I had to say this to Roland Martin because he was pissing me off on Twitter earlier today. Roland Martin trying to make excuses for Kamala Harris. And I said, Roland, there is no platform on her website. Her website says donate and there's a store. So she wants you to buy t-shirts, but she is not giving you any platform. I said, what is her agenda for Black voters? What's the agenda, Roland? Let me know, because I'm all ears. Let me know. I don't see no agenda for Black voters. It's just like they want these people, the people sitting here, they want those people to stay poor. They don't care about those people. The only time they come around is when they try to get a vote. The only time you see them coming through the neighborhood is when they want your damn vote. Other than that, they don't give a damn about you losing your SNAP benefits. They don't give a damn about what that woman just said. Either I eat or my children eat. They don't give a damn about you, boo. And I've said this for the longest time. They really trying to push poor people out. They'd rather you die than help you. But they have $3.8 billion to give to Israel. Everyone in Israel has health care, but they don't want you to have health care. What? And the American people stand for this? And you guys continue to vote for them? No way. Would you see this happen in France? Do you think people in France would continue to vote for, someone like Macron or whoever if they weren't giving them health care? You think they would put up with that? Nope. They would be out in the streets.
The gun violence is second in my mind. But it's what can they do for us? How can they help? How can they go into a home and help that family to save their children? We need the funding. We want the help. But in my opinion, it starts at home.
It starts at home. Jalil, what about you? What is most important to you right now?
Economics, education, reentry, reform.
Reentry to the criminal justice system.
Exactly. We need to save ourselves.
That's right.
If we're looking for somebody to save us, it's not going to happen.
I love that guy. That guy said it. He said my saying. He said it. He hit the nail on the. What did he say? We need to save ourselves. I told you. They're not coming to save you. Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party, at one point in time did care about the working class. Not since I've been alive, though. But at one point in time, they did care about the working class. Then along the way, they became the party of Wall Street, Harvard grads, Goldman Sachs, and all that jazz. And they said, fuck those poor people. Forget the working class people. Forget them. They don't care about, they won't even raise the minimum wage. Are you kidding me? They gave up. They walked away and said, forget it. Let's get in bed with Wall Street. And that is what they've continued to do. And now they don't even talk to the working class. They don't even want to be bothered with you. You try to approach them and ask them a question, they run away. AOC runs away from you. What? After all those people in the Bronx gave her the little bit that they had so that she would fight for them, they run away from you. All they care about now are the black boule, like the Roland Martins and the Kamala Harris and the Van Jones and the Hillary Clintons. That's what they care about. And if you're not on their level academically or when it comes to class, they not really trying to do anything for you. And that is a problem. Working class people need a voice too. Poor people need a voice too. Your voice has been silenced by the elites because that's who they work for.
The system.
Exactly. We need to save ourselves.
That's right.
If we're looking for somebody to save us, it's not going to happen.
If you look at Philadelphia and you took the most impoverished areas in Philadelphia, and then you took the crime rate where the most crime is happening in Philadelphia, and you laid it right there, it would almost match up perfectly.
Mm-hmm. That's because crime and poverty are often linked.
So if you're seeing that much of a correlation between poverty and crime, you have to address that on some level. If we invest in our schools, invest in our youth, we will see some changes there.
The way I would articulate it is quality of life issues. How we live our everyday lives, right? So if that's jobs, if that's housing, if that's gun violence, if that's education, like everything that makes our lives good, that's what I vote for in mind.
Who votes with guns in mind on a federal level? When you cast your ballot at a presidential election for senators, for members of Congress.
Now, when you say guns in mind, mine is
gun control, issues surrounding guns, background checks, all of you do.
Yes.
I mean, that's us voting with us in mind.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, when you say that, like this
You're
is
talking about your family.
You know, like when you ask me, am I voting with guns in mind? I'm voting. That means I'm voting with me in mind, because I could very much be a victim of gun violence.
You got to keep talking about it, keep talking about it. You have to consistently let people know this is not normal. It doesn't seem like people are angry enough to say no more, no more.
And we're going to keep talking about it. I checked in with these voters after the attempted assassination of the former president this past week, and they told me while it has not changed their positions on who they're going to vote for, they're still undecided. It does reiterate that guns are a major problem in this country. It's why people need to vote with gun control measures in mind. We're going to have much more of that conversation and our deep dive into gun violence in their community and what it's facing in the upcoming weeks. You don't want to miss that.
Thanks.
Let me chime in here as well. So notice what she said. Even they're still undecided. Undecided. Black voters, Philadelphia. Didn't want to support, the black voters, Philadelphia. And then you heard white voters in Wisconsin. Now, I do just want to say something for those who may be new or those who may not be aware of this. Just because you hear black voters say they're concerned about, gun violence, that doesn't mean they're anti-gun. That doesn't mean that we don't want people to be able to own guns at all. Doesn't mean we're against the Second Amendment. Because for me, for example, I am not against the Second Amendment. I believe that you have the right to protect yourself. And I'll be damned if the police can walk around with guns, but you can't have a gun. Oh, hell no. Hell no. I thought it was a huge mistake for Beto to campaign on that and say, we're going to take your guns away. Nah, bruh. And the police still got guns? No. Now, I showed you swing state polls on Thursday. The polls have already changed again, and I think you need to see this. This was released yesterday. Decision Desk HQ at the Hill, head-to-head battleground polling averages. They have already changed. In Virginia, you have Kamala Harris at 44.9%, Donald Trump at 42.3%. Virginia will probably most likely go to the Democrat Party. Like, I don't even really consider that a battleground state anymore, but whatever, they put it here. Wisconsin, we just heard from voters in Wisconsin, right? Donald Trump at 49.1%, Kamala Harris at 48.5%. So Wisconsin is close. Michigan, Donald Trump at 49.1%, Harris at 47.1%. So Donald Trump is beating in Michigan, slightly ahead in Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, we just saw voters from Pennsylvania. Donald Trump at 48.5%, Kamala Harris at 45.9%. So we have to keep our eye on Pennsylvania. I imagine this may change within about a month or so, but we'll keep an eye on it, especially considering if Kamala Harris does select Shapiro to be her VP, then that could help her in Pennsylvania, I think, but there's no guarantee she's going to select him. Shapiro is also pretty pro-censorship. He's the one that wants to censor or punish colleges that want to defund Israel. So just keep that in mind. Why is she even looking at him? See what I mean? Georgia, Donald Trump, 47.9%, Kamala Harris, 43.1%. As I told you before, I think Georgia will be red again. Arizona is 51.1% for Trump, Kamala Harris, 44.7%. Again, I predicted Arizona will be red again. I also believe, that's a border state. So I think that's going to be a big issue. And then Nevada, 49.5% for Trump and 40.9% for Kamala Harris. I also predicted that Nevada would turn red this election as well, because again, another border state. So here we are. So those are the polls right now. Now, it's continuing to change like every couple of days. So we'll keep an eye on that. At the same time, I want to show you something that I think is going to be a disaster for Kamala Harris's campaign if they don't fix this. Now, you just heard those voters talk about the economy. So the other day, I received a text message from Dim Assessment, and there was a link to a survey. So I click on the link. By the way, I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm a registered independent, but they sending this shit to everybody. So I click on the link. Guess what this is? You got to see this over here. Just received a text from Dim Assessment, which included this survey. Look at the options listed for top issues. Notice economy or inflation isn't listed. That's the number one concern of voters. The other issues do matter, but how the hell do you omit economy right now? So here we go. Your response is critical for our 2024 strategy. Do you approve of Kamala Harris? Of course, I said no. This is the problem, though. Which issues are currently a top issue to you? Look at what they listed. Codify Roe v. Wade, expanding access to birth control, passing paid family leave, expanding the Supreme Court, working towards racial justice, protecting voting rights, passing gun reform, protecting LGBTQ plus rights, passing Medicare, expanding Social Security, addressing climate change, other. This is not to say none of these issues are important, but I found it to be very odd considering that we're dealing with inflation. And when voters are polled, they've said the number one issue to them is the economy. And they didn't even list the economy as an option. Nowhere on here. No economy, no inflation. This, again, is this administration's effort to avoid what people have been saying about the economy. How can you not put this here? And there's other ones that could be on here as well. But obviously, I told you they're really going to try to focus on Roe v. Wade, right? That's how they're really going to try to get a lot of the female voters, is to focus on the Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court overturning that. They're hoping that will be their meal ticket, even though I explained for you the Democratic Party could have codified Roe v. Wade into law years ago. This could have happened under Obama. All he had to do was abolish the filibuster, and this would have been a win. And he ran on it, by the way. Expanding access to birth control. That is a part of Medicare for all, right? So passing Medicare for all, that will be included in that. I agree with Medicare for all. I agree that everyone should have health care. I have, spoken at events for Medicare for all. I've marched for Medicare for all. I agree with Medicare for all. So this is not to say I'm against any of this. What it is to say is you did not list the number one issue that voters have, which is the economy. And that is suspect as hell for me, fam. It's the economy, stupid. How can you not list this when right now people are on TV complaining about the grocery store prices, and people have been complaining for years? So that goes to show you what this administration is focused on. That's a big problem. Yes, I think we need to focus on Social Security. I don't even know if Social Security will be around by the time I'm old enough for Social Security. It's just a reality. Are they even going to have it? I don't know. Addressing climate change, protecting voter. This is the thing that kills me. Protecting voting rights. What does that even mean when you gerrymander districts? And both parties do this. Democrats and Republicans do this. So what do you mean? Passing gun reform. I feel like I heard this since the Clinton days. Working towards racial justice. This is a funny one. What do you mean working towards racial justice? What do you mean working towards it? It is don't not fixing this, or see what I mean by the bare minimum? Come on, fam. Expanding the Supreme Court. I agree there need to be changes on the Supreme Court. But again, when I'm thinking about the bread and butter issues, that's not the number one thing that pops into my mind. You know what I'm saying? Nothing here about minimum wage. Nothing here about a living wage. You see what they're talking about? Passing paid family leave. Let me tell you something about that. Your best bet is getting that done through the states. We passed it here in Massachusetts. I think more states should opt in for this. Passing paid family leave. It was done a lot faster on the local level. Like, it's crazy we even have to pass that, right? This is what I don't understand about this country. Other countries, just everybody just gets paid family leave. What do you mean passing that? But it is what it is. But how can you not focus on the economy? I don't get this. No economy. No economy. Number one issue, but according to the Democratic Party or to the Harris administration, apparently not an important issue. Someone mentioned in the chat reparations. Well, you know she wasn't going to put that on there. But yeah, that right there let you know. Remember what she said. She's not trying to do anything specifically for Black community. Let's go to part two whenever you're ready, Corey. If Kamala Harris loses, which I'll be shocked if she beats Donald Trump, but if she loses, then I think I'm going to go right back to that survey that was sent to me. Can't even mention the economy. Aye. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. Thank you, Kenman. Obama won a Nobel Prize because awards are like hemorrhoids. Every a-hole gets one. Oh my God. He said hemorrhoids. I'm sorry, I'm laughing too because it's a funny thing. I remember when I was in high school, a friend of mine, she used to use preparation H under her eyes because she said like it helps with like the poofy. Thank you, Kevin. They bogarted Nina ? Okay, Mamala, that's enough of this shit. Nina Simone. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit more. I want to see if I can get access to the actual document. Thank you, Roger. Sab, in person, Albany, 3-hour drive. I'll zoom it. Yeah, it is pretty far. But greatly your old 10, Roger. Thank you for the super sticker, Trash Panda. Thank you, Penny. Popeyes told me there was a Biden tax on my meal. Are you serious? What does that mean? What? Okay, that is interesting. Frank, as a disabled veteran, I'm currently on food stamps and they aren't a lot. As a single person, I get $120 a month. I have to live off multivitamins because I can't afford a lot of real food. I'm so sorry to hear that, Frank, but I'm not surprised. Do you guys see how this country takes care of their veterans? I told you guys, I've been trying to tell you, they always say, oh, love our troops and support the troops. And after they become veterans, they forget about them. Casey, yep, family of 3 went from 400 to 275 for SNAP here. Thanks, Biden. My comrade JB, it's a slow death via economic depression. The Black community have been living in a depression for many of our lives. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. My colleagues are affluent and even they complain about healthcare in this country. They know how healthcare due to traveling to other countries and seeing how much cheaper healthcare is. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's just crazy. Thank you, Roger. No, Sab, we don't have to save ourselves. We save each other. Thank you, Kenman. Don't you know, talking about a revolution. Thank you, Janine. Feels like younger parents didn't grow up seeing how to make ends meet, how to stretch meat with cheaper food like rice, live within our means, not the Joneses. I don't even think that matters much now, Janine. I mean, it's just, I'm seeing people try to stretch out food, but like I said, it's just so expensive now, especially meat. If you were thinking about being a vegetarian, now's a good time to pursue that. Thank you for this as well. Where's the love? My father was on Social Security and had stage 4 stomach cancer. I'm sorry to hear that. His SNAP benefits were reduced from $100 per month to $13 per month. I told you guys, this is another thing that people need to call out is the SNAP benefits when they talk about, oh, the economy is thriving. Don't forget about that. Because people like to say Republicans cut those things. That was cut by the Democratic Party. Thank you for this as well, Penny. Gun violence, a problem in NATO states of America. I hear you. Shout out to Tucker Tries for becoming a new member. That is an interesting picture you got there, Tucker Tries. Thank you for the super sticker, Jean A. Thank you. It's Tweety Bird. And thank you, Mary Rose. Raised my 2 daughters in poverty. They've been trying to kill us for years. That woman was not speaking hyperbole. That's right. Well said. Thank you so much. All right, guys, if you're new, smash that like button and like, sub, and share. Okay, we're going to go to a more funny story. At least I think it's funny. Oh, we got to talk about this, guys. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Tyler Perry. He's made a lot of movies, some of them good, some okay. A lot of them recently, meh. But Tyler Perry has managed to become a billionaire from a movie industry. You know what I said before about billionaires? You don't become a billionaire without exploiting the workers. That's how you get there. So he is now very angry because he is being criticized. Let's get into the article, and then I'm going to show you the interview that is calling out where he's upset and calling out people for criticizing his work. I hope you get ready to laugh. We got a little bit of comedy. I have a reenactment here for you that I think is going to make everybody laugh. But it all started, this article here from Variety, Tyler Perry calls out highbrow critics of his films. Who are you to be able to say which Black story is important? Jesus Christ. So here he is. You know, you can't criticize Tyler Perry apparently. I think this criticism he should have heard a long time ago. Tyler Perry isn't letting the highbrow critics of his movies deter him from sharing stories related to Black communities. And I'll show you what he said in the actual interview. But this is where the criticism is coming from, folks. Perry's latest drama film, Divorce in the Black, starring Megan Good and Corey Hardick, has been widely panned by critics and even earned a rare 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, the film currently holds a 75% audience score. So it stems from Divorce in the Black. And I did watch the movie, so I do feel like I have some things to say. I have some things to say. So first of all, shout out to Megan Good. Megan Good is a phenomenal actress. She saved this movie. And I really mean that. She saved, without Megan Good, she saved it. The movie is tough. It needs some help. And I'm just keeping it real. But because she's a good actress, she was able to shine through. But this is where the heat is coming from. It's this movie here, which was just released, Divorce in the Black. There's Megan Good. There's as the wife in the show. And this is Corey Hardick. Some of you may not be familiar with him. A lot of you may know him because he was married to Tia Mowry. They are now divorced, but he was married to her. So he plays the husband in the film. So even The Guardian said Divorce in the Black review, Tyler Perry's dull drama is his worst to date. They gave it 1 star. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, I do not disagree. That movie was tough to get through. And as much as I have had, critiques of Tyler Perry's later movies, I still watch them. Like when he has a new movie, I'll watch it and think maybe this one will be better. But it was not. And so it says here, when you see a title like Divorce in the Black appear underneath a Tyler Perry byline, you assume this is more not so clever wordplay that clumsily states the obvious. A woman takes her no good ex to the cleaners before riding off into the sunset. But this new Amazon Prime feature doesn't just fail to live up to that billing. It easily is his worst film to date. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing because I'll tell you what I thought about the film in just a second. But again, like I said, I think Megan Good is what makes this movie somewhat watchable because she is a good actress. So Tyler Perry does not like the criticism that is coming his way. And he was on Keke Palmer's podcast and he had some things to say. He is angry. Now, I do like Keke. I think she's also a phenomenal actress. She's also a singer. She's a triple threat. Singer, dance, actress. I think she's great at what she does. I remember her when she was in the movie called Akilah and the Bee when she was a kid. So this goes way back. Listen to what Tyler had to say.
Because there was criticism in that show as well about this young Black writer who wants to be able to tell his stories. And they're bringing up Tyler and then he comes back to the end and he admits exactly what you just said, where this is actually a representation of my personal disdain, the things that I don't want to see, the things that I don't want to face. And that's what art is supposed to do for us. So I love that you've never allowed that criticism to stop you from being able to have your authentic voice as an artist, because it does get really difficult.
Yeah, but what? No. You got to drown all of that out, because if you let somebody talk you out of a place that God has put you in, you are going to find yourself in hell. I know for a fact that what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, because for everyone who is a critic, I have thousands of used to be emails from people saying, this changed my life. Oh my God, you know me. Oh my God, you saw me. How did you know this about my life, my family? So that is what is important to me. We're talking a large portion of my fans who are disenfranchised, who cannot get in the Volvo and go to therapy on the weekend.
Yes.
So let's just go ahead and pause there because so here's the thing. Here's the thing, Tyler. For me, the criticism is not a class issue. The criticism is about the scripts, because earlier on, there were some movies made that I thought were really good. I thought The Family That Prays was a good movie. I thought it had good actors in that movie, but I thought the storyline was just so fitting, right? So I thought that was strong. Strong actors, really good. Great script. I thought Diary of a Mad Black Woman was also, and that was the first one. Some of these were plays turned into movies, but that was the first one that was turned into a movie. I thought the script of that was pretty good, and I thought the actors really good. But guys, these are the older movies. These are some of his earlier works. As time went by, I feel like the quality started to decline. Someone mentioned in the chat, Why Did I Get Married? That was a good one too. I thought that was a phenomenal cast. You had Janet Jackson, you had all these different actors together, and they fit well. They like clicked. There was chemistry there. That was good. Last couple of movies, bud, they haven't been too good. I watched the Mea Culpa. I saw this Divorce in the Black. And again, I don't know who's writing these scripts. I know Tyler Perry was writing at one point, but he said now that he has a team that he's brought in. So I don't know who these writers are. But number one, for me, the complaint is not about you telling stories about people from different class backgrounds. That's not the issue. My problem is the script, it doesn't sound believable. The dialogue that takes place in Mea Culpa and in Divorce in the Black, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel believable. There are parts of Divorce in the Black where there's dialogue taking place between Corey Hardick and Megan Good. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, no one would say this in real life. The dialogue feels forced, or it's like so over the top. It just doesn't feel real and believable. Why Did I Get Married felt believable. The Family That Prays felt believable. These last couple of movies that Tyler Perry has created have not felt believable. So it's the writing. I told you guys, Megan Good, she's what saves the movie. Without her, it's just, no. Let's go on a little bit more.
So you've got this highbrow Negro who is all up in the air with his nose up looking at everything. And then you got people like where I come from and me who are grinders, who really know what it's like, whose mothers and were caregivers for white kids and were maids and housekeepers and all of these beauticians that don't discount these people and say that their story don't matter. Who are you to be able to say which Black story is important or should be told? Get out of here with that bullshit.
Yes.
So it's not about which story should be told. It's the script. And I'm one of those people, I look back and I'm like, and if I see so much talent, like in a movie, and I'm listening to the script and I'm like, what is this? Like Divorce in the Black, for example, there are several scenes in this movie where I'm like, there's no way in hell this would ever happen in real life. Corey Hardick's character was not believable to me. And this is not to say there aren't men that have, issues with drinking. That's not the problem. The problem is the lines in the script don't seem real. It doesn't seem real. We've talked about this before multiple times. Now here he is calling someone highbrow when he's a billionaire. And yes, I know he grew up with not much. And he said he grinds. Right? I hate when people are like, I grew up with poor, but I grind and that's how I got here. No, you exploited some folks. That's how you became a billionaire, Tyler. You exploited some of your workers. Even some of your actresses have spoken out. Taraji P. Henson spoke out against you and the way that you treated the workers. So that's why you and Oprah are billionaires, because you guys exploited some damn folks. Okay? It's not because you grind. Stop that. Stop letting people tell you that they became a billionaire because they worked hard. Hell, if that was the case, everybody that worked hard would have gotten there. A mess. A mess. But he's mad. He got angry. He started cussing. He's pissed. You can't criticize Tyler Perry, right? So look at this. Now I'm going to show you. Listen to what this guy is saying, because he's spot on. He said, is Tyler Perry for real?
The audacity of a billionaire who has built an empire off of cheap labor, while also their empire that is in the city of Atlanta is responsible for pushing out Black folks from a neighborhood they can no longer afford, while also flying out members of the royal family and protecting them from a system that they married into. Girl, you got some nerve. You can't be serious.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the Black Council.
So this is the king of reads, guys.
This video is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen from a Tyler Perry. Like, I am no longer like interested in Tyler Perry, like, period. This person, this empire, this billionaire who is responsible for a lot of the gentrification and also pushing Cop City in the city of Atlanta, which will affect Black folks in the city of Atlanta more than any other people, Black folks who built this city. Tyler Perry has some nerve calling us uppity. Girl, you are the up. You have your direct boot on us. You are the one that does not believe in unionizing. You don't believe in paying folks. All of the folks who worked with you in the past, you were not paying them a fair wage. You have built your empire on the folks who are criticizing you. It makes no sense. This is the most anti-Black stuff I've ever heard Tyler Perry. Like, all of the things that he has done, they are legitimately calling you out for your commitment to continuously produce minstrel, anti-Black, misogynistic, misogynoir. You are fully committed to making minstrel, misogynoir content for money, for profit. Your whole idea of Madea disrespects all of the great Black Madeas in history. You have completely destroyed the idea of a Black older matriarch in the family. You have turned it into funny meme content for white people to consume. You're trying to make this a class issue when you are actually the ruling class.
That's the part that drove me crazy. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're a billionaire. And the people that are critiquing his movies are not billionaires. Tyler Perry is. So who's really the highbrow person? That would be Tyler Perry. It's hilarious to me. Every like movie is like the same. Black woman gets hurt by Black man. Black woman is rescued by another Black man that makes everything great in her life. Like, it's so predictable. Like, even watching Divorce in the Black, I'm like, I already can predict what's going to happen. Like, that's the problem with your movies. So quantity is not better than quality. It would be better for him to produce less movies that have a better quality than producing more that are weak. These movies are so predictable, man. So predictable.
You are trying to make it seem as though you're still making $50,000 and work at Kinko's or something. You are a billionaire that used a jet to fly members of the royal family out to protect them from the system that they wanted to be in. Like, say what you want to say. Like, yes, Meghan Markle has experienced some trash stuff, but Meghan Markle wanted to marry into this family. No shade. No shade. That's just what it is. You and your policies and your influence in Atlanta is hurting Black folks, period. The studio, the big studio that's making you all this money, has been built by working class folks who cannot even afford to be in that area anymore.
Yep.
The people who are coming and working in your place cannot even afford to live in the city. Like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, this is why we need to have folks with microphones that understand the systems. And it's no shade to Keke Palmer, even though she got me blocked on Twitter. Like, there's no pushback. Tyler Perry was able to get on this thing and talk about highbrow Black folks when he is a highbrow person. Like, yes, we're being critical because you continuously are committed again to making this trash content.
Yeah.
And it's not trash because it's Black stories. It's trash because You're not investing in folks to write. You're not investing in black folks. You're only taking from them, taking their money, pushing them out the city, like paying them poor wages. Like, you don't even believe in unionizing. You don't even believe in unionizing in your own empire that you have built off of cheap black labor.
What does that say to you, you guys? What does that tell you? He's against unions. He's against unionizing the workers. So whether you like Tyler Perry as, you know, an entertainer or not, nothing takes away from the fact that he's against the workers. And see, a lot of people were upset at Taraji P. Henson, like when she talked about this, but Taraji was right. She was trying to tell people they were using people. People doing phenomenal work, which I think Taraji is definitely underpaid. People doing phenomenal work. And like Tyler Perry sitting back there, he's a billionaire. And you paying the workers, what? Very little. And then you don't want them to unionize. So Tyler Perry is not pro-labor. That's a problem, fam. Ay.
You cannot be serious. We are the working class. People who are criticizing you are not billionaires. They are working class folks. Even if they do make $100,000, $200,000 a year, they are not in the same tax bracket as you. How are you going to sit up here and call us highbrow when the criticism has been legitimate? You and your idea of like content is like anti-black stuff wrapped up in comedy made for white folks. Like, girl, are you serious? You're trying to say that this specific audience enjoy this content, enjoy these things. There's nothing wrong with us laughing and enjoying specific type of content, but your stuff is minstrel show. Like, people were laughing at blackface until they realized what it was. Like, the stuff that you're doing, a lot of the stories that you have told, you're talking about some, oh, people talk about how much I moved them and I sending them emails and da-da-da. Girl, people send emails to Santa Claus. That don't mean something is happening. People send emails to politicians that are not going to do anything for them. Yep. This is no different. You're not making them think. You're not using your influence to make things better. You're making specific type of content that could be better with writers. Invest in better writers. Like, you don't want to do that. You are selfish, which is why your name is on every movie or show that you have created, because it's not the writing. It's not that it's good. It's your name. People are still stuck on those rinky-dink plays that you did in the early 2000s. Yes, we laughed. There's nostalgia in that for a lot of us. We remember the folks in these plays making us laugh. It wasn't you. It was the black folks that were talented in their singing and their acting and being able to bring something on stage for us to enjoy. It was not you. You are not the thing that made this. It was everybody else. You are
everybody else. If you don't follow him, follow King of Reads. He does video essays. He's really good at this, but it was everybody else. It was all the other people that were in these movies. It was Megan Good. It was Janet Jackson, right? It was, I forget the other, Jill Scott. It was all these people, the talent, very talented people, which again, according to Taraji, she tried to warn people, you didn't really want to pay people what they were worth. That's a whole other topic, but you see what I mean? So the reality is too, that I want to point out, it's over the top. There's different scenes in these movies that are exaggerated. So someone made fun of one. So I hope you guys are ready to laugh. Divorce in the Black, which I just watched. Somebody did this, and I'm going to give you an award for this one. Tyler Perry seeing videos like this on TikTok, and that's probably why he's reacting, because this has me weak. They are making fun of the grocery store scene in Divorce in the Black. Watch this. It's funny.
See you come to the market every Tuesday like clockwork. You not gonna say anything?
No, actually I'm not.
Kinda like a bitch like your daughter.
Watch your mouth.
So I have to pause and just laugh because in the movie, they're fighting with the cart like that. And I'm like, nobody does this. Nobody does all this in the grocery store in broad daylight.
I'm a woman of God. Oh, you crazy? You think I'm a motherfucking fool? Huh? Boy, get your hands off me! Run and tell your husband that shit. You fool! You die! You fool! You crazy! You fool! You fool! You devil! You fool! And what the fuck you looking at?
Whoever made this, freaking phenomenal. But it's true. If you watch now, you guys probably want to watch it now, huh? If you watch Divorce in the Black, that grocery store scene was just, it's ridiculous, over the top. I'm like, come on, no one does all this. So give props to the two people in that TikTok. It says at Brody the Joker. Give props to them because they killed it on that one. They killed it. Yeah, they did a good job. Good job. Let's go to some of the comments. And I have one more story for you about the Obama-Biden sabotage, which is pretty interesting. Oh man, they had me cracking up. Thank you, Tucker Tries. Thank you, Sabby, for providing a competitive contrast against a wall of controlled opposition, distracting, dividing, and demeaning. You are welcome, Tucker. Thank you, Janine. The wigs are also paid actors for Tyler. Oh my God. Thank you, Wasim. Hi, Sabby. The civilians killed in Golan Heights are Syrian Muslim Druze. Yes, they are Syrian Arabs. They declined Israeli citizenship and blame Israel. That's right. I thought so. Thank you, Andrea. How do I join the Orlando chapter of RBN? You can contact JB Font. I think JB's in the chat. So if you reach out to JB, probably on Twitter, if you tag him on Twitter, he'll tell you how to join. Thank you, Wasim. Smotrich tried to come to their funeral and he was kicked out of the Muslim funeral ceremony. Also, the Iron Dome missile hit the same town in Golan Heights. Thank you, Cool Blue. Are Tyler Perry productions now more formulaic and predictable than Hallmark Channel original movies? Yeah, I'd say they're about the same, like on board with the Hallmark. You know, it's like girl like lives in the big city, but is from a small town and moves back to the small town and falls in love with some guy she went to school with in elementary school, but she hasn't seen him all these years because she moved to the big city and this all happens around Christmas and there's this big holiday parade event. That's the Hallmark thing, right? Well, with Tyler Perry, it's like Black woman is hurt by dark-skinned Black. It's always dark-skinned Black man. And then she finds herself through a lighter-skinned Black guy who saves her and all this kind of, it's over the top though. Family That Prays was good though. That one was good. Colin said Tasha Smith. That's right. Tasha Smith is another good actress that's been in his movies. I think she has a twin too. And thank you for the super sticker. Tragedy equals comedy. Oh man. All right. Let me try not to laugh to do this other story. Yes, Notori. And he make every Black woman in his movie speak like a slave. Exactly. Oh my God. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I just interviewed Tara Reid, Pyro. I just interviewed her. Yeah, you check my channel, you'll see I just interviewed Tara Reid. Okay, final story. I can't get off of this. I don't know what to do. FM says Wesley Snipes looking guy, the villain, Will Smith, the hero. Every time. Okay. I can't look at the comments anymore now because you guys, I got to put on a more serious face. Okay, get this. So apparently Seymour Hersh, he's the journalist that uncovered the Nord Stream pipeline story, the Nord Stream bombing and all that kind of stuff. Well, now he has uncovered something else. It appears that Seymour Hersh, he wrote an article. I saw it this weekend, and you got to hear about this. Apparently, there was some sabotage that happened between Joe Biden and Barack Obama leading up to Joe Biden deciding not to run for re-election. And you have got to hear this. We're going to start with this clip here from RT. Let's go ahead and bring this bad boy in. Oh, actually, I want to start this from the beginning. Sorry, Corey. That's on me. Listen to this, guys. Woo!
Did Barack Obama work behind the scenes to ensure Joe Biden wouldn't run for president again? That's the bombshell expose from Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh, who claims Biden's former ally sought to get Biden swapped out for Kamala Harris ahead of November's election. One of the more notable but unconfirmed findings reveals that a threat to invoke a constitutional amendment made up President Biden's mind.
By Saturday, July 20th, former President Barack Obama was deeply involved, and there was talk that he would place a call to Biden. It was not clear whether Biden had been examined or just what happened to him in Las Vegas. On Sunday morning, the official told me, with the approval of Pelosi and Schumer, Obama called Biden after breakfast and said, "Here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment. The amendment provides that when the president is determined by the vice president and others to be unfit to carry out the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall assume those duties."
Okay, so let's get into the article here from Seymour Hersh, because this is very telling. It's called Leaving Las Vegas, and this is a free article if you guys want to read this on your own. This is one of the free ones. Inside the last tortured days of the Biden campaign. And I want to get down to, we're going to jump ahead here because I want to, I thought I did this already. Hold on, guys. I don't know why it's doing this again. Sorry. I had signed up. This was already signed. I don't know why it's, hold on. Let me scooch out. Just free. There we go. I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, back to where I was. Anywho, leaving Las Vegas. So let's dive into this. I want to jump in a little bit here. We're going to start. Why is it doing this? Is someone else signed in? Someone else is signed in. Hold on. Corey, when you clip this, can you skip the why is it doing this part? Thank you. Boy, I tell you. Yeah. That's because Eric is signed into this. Let me just share it on my screen. I don't know why Substack does that sometimes. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, we're just going to screen share on my screen. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to do. Okay, now let's dive in here a little bit. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. This is why I wanted to use it there. So we're going to just fast forward a little bit here. He starts off talking about who didn't know that Biden was failing. And we all knew there was some difficulty that was happening there. I mentioned it during the 2020 debates, that kind of thing. But I want to start with this part right about here. After the debate, there was mounting pressure on Biden to drop out. The White House and the president himself denied that he was suffering from anything more than a bad day, a cold, and jet lag. So we all remember that, right? Fast forward, Monday, July 15th, Biden took off on the Air Force One on a campaign trip to Nevada, and a toss-up state that Biden won in 2020 by a little more than 30,000 votes. On Tuesday, he gave the keynote address to 5,000 members of the NAACP. The next day, the president, apparently stricken while campaigning, with a yet to be revealed illness, broke from his schedule and made a police escort race to Air Force One after initially telling police they were heading to the nearest emergency room. Now, let's fast forward. They announced that he obviously got the Rona. Fast forward here, right about here. He was said to have upper respiratory symptoms, a runny nose, a cough, and was fatigued. That was the last straw for a core group of congressional leaders, government officials, and some Biden funders who were withholding huge amounts of committed contributions. So this is where the donor class comes in and they start to make their complaints, right? So remember, they control the politicians. There was pressure on donors to come across on their pending commitments, the official told me. It was understood that Biden had a physical problem in Las Vegas, and the family was saying no to continued pressure from donors and senior Democrats in Congress to withdraw from the presidential campaign. So again, this is to reiterate that Biden did not want to step down. This is important because Saturday, July 20th, Barack Obama was deeply involved. There was talk that he would place a call to Biden. It was not clear whether Biden had been examined or just what happened to him in Las Vegas. The big three, the official said, referring to former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, continued to be directly involved. On Sunday morning, the official told me, with the approval of Pelosi and Schumer, Obama called Biden after breakfast and said, here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment. Again, they had Kamala's approval. So remember, for this, if you have the vice president's approval, then technically the president is supposed to step aside. So Kamala gave the okay. Let's go on. The amendment provides that when the president is determined by the vice president and others to be unfit to carry out the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall assume those duties. So, if they got the approval from Kamala Harris to carry out the 25th Amendment, technically, Kamala should be in charge right now in that position, handling those duties, not Joe Biden. Let's go on. Hey. It was clear at this point, the official said, that she would get the nod. That is the support to run for presidency in the November election. But Obama also made it clear, the official said, that he was not going to immediately endorse her. What, fam? So when Obama made that call to Joe Biden and said that Kamala has given the approval to give the 25th Amendment, he also told him he was not going to immediately endorse her. Everybody following this? Okay, that's important because it goes on to say, but the group had decided that her work as a prosecutor would help her deal with Trump in a debate. One possible drawback, I was told, was Harris's sometimes disdain for the work of the U.S. intelligence community. She is known not to be especially interested in the president's daily brief, a highly classified summary of current intelligence that is prepared overnight by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and delivered by hand to the most vital offices in Washington, including the vice president's. The document, which includes signals intelligence, is to be read by the addressee in the presence of delivering intelligence officer. Now we want to jump ahead here. A key factor in the decision to force Biden out of office by invoking the 25th Amendment was a series of increasingly negative polls on the president's standing against Trump that had been commissioned by the funders. So the negative poll results that Biden was continuing to get, that pushed some of this. So just keep that in mind. It wasn't just the debate. Everybody hearing this? Not just the debate. Polling would also be important for the vice president, I was told. And it was agreed that if the polls did not continue to show her gaining traction, other options would be considered, including an open convention. So this goes back to tell you when I told you that they were testing out Kamala Harris behind the scenes with other polls to see how she would do against Donald Trump. This was because, again, they knew that Biden was not going to be able to beat Donald Trump because of the polls, obviously. And then the debate performance really put the nail in the coffin. So they were quietly testing to see how Kamala would do against him. Back to the open convention portion. I was unable to learn if Harris was aware of such considerations or whether she intends to abide by them. Does everybody hear this part? Including an open convention. So what people have to understand is this. When Barack Obama told Joe Biden that Kamala is going to invoke the 25th Amendment, and he went on to tell him that he would not immediately endorse Kamala Harris, Joe Biden basically gave a little bit of a stab there at Barack Obama by trying to beat him at his own game. So what Joe Biden did is said, okay, you guys trying to push me out? Okay, fine. I'll go ahead and announce that I'm not going to seek re-election. But then what Joe Biden did on the sneak is he decided to go ahead and publicly and nominate Kamala Harris for the position and endorse her. So does everybody see what is happening? That was Joe Biden's way of getting back at Barack Obama. It has already been said that behind the scenes that Biden and his wife, Jill Biden, they did not want to do this. They were not happy about being forced out of re-election. So this was Joe Biden's way of getting back at Barack Obama, because he really was just kind of like, I don't know. It reminds me of the scene on Training Day, from Training Day. You guys remember Training Day? Remember when Denzel was like, you dirty motherfuckers, you want to turn on me? I'm the king around here. That's probably how Biden felt at that point, right? He was probably just like, you dirty mother. That's how he felt. So what did he decide to do? Fine. You don't want to endorse her right away? I'll endorse her to put pressure on you to endorse her immediately. Because everybody knew if Barack Obama didn't come out and endorse her, it would look suspect, right? Yeah. Now listen to this part. It gets crazier, fam. The official who has decades of experience in fundraising told me that Obama emerged as the strongman throughout the negotiations. He had an agenda and he wanted to seek it through to the end, and he wanted to have control over who would be elected. Highlighting this one for the win. He had an agenda and he wanted to seek it through to the end, and he wanted to have control over who would be elected. And that goes back to what I've been saying all this time, fam, which is Barack Obama behind the scenes was making damn decisions. I knew this. Now I just got it in writing. Making decisions, just like he said he would stay out of the Democrat race in 2020. Remember, he said he would stay out of that. Then behind the scenes, he was making phone calls telling people to drop out. Said he wouldn't publicly endorse anyone, but he made phone calls and told people to drop out to help Joe Biden. Barack Obama has been behind the scenes all the time, pulling the strings. It has been him. So now we have in writing that Barack Obama wanted to have control over who the nominee would be, but also over who would be elected. Sounds like the mafia. Everybody see this? This is crazy. Bam. Then it goes on to say a few days after we talk with Harris getting off to a solid start, Obama and his wife announced their endorsement of Harris and told her over the phone in a staged TV event that they would do all they could to campaign for her and to support her, but she had better perform. As I said, let's give a shout out here to Seymour Hersh, for dropping the big bang, leaving Las Vegas inside the last tortured days of the Biden campaign. And you can pull the mask off of the villain from the Scooby-Doo cartoon, and you can see it was Barack Obama all this time, which is exactly what I've been telling people. Once again, Barack Obama wants to be the one to decide who is elected. And apparently he did not believe, I told you days ago, he did not believe that Kamala Harris could beat Donald Trump, which is why he did not want to immediately endorse her. So Joe Biden turned around and said, I'm going to get you for this one for pushing me out. So I'm going to go ahead and make a public endorsement for Kamala Harris. So if you don't, everyone will call you out. Ain't this about a bitch? It was Obama all this time. So shout out to Seymour Hersh because, A, he brought us a story about the Nord Stream bombing, and now he's bringing us stories about what happened behind the scenes when Biden decided not to seek re-election. Biden really did not want to step down. This was not him trying to be courageous. He was pushed to do it. So Barack Obama forced his hand, and we're going to have to go over this one day. Maybe me and JB could talk about this sometime in the JB and Sabby show, because you got to get into Obama's background. I have a whole article about this, about how his family was CIA and all that kind of stuff. And it explains a lot of things as to how he can make these decisions. And no, that's not a conspiracy. This is already fact and has been proven. So people need to start paying attention to what's going on. Bernie Sanders never stood a chance. Regardless of how he was polling, he never stood a chance. What's the thing from Training Day? You guys tell me. You guys remember Training Day, right? Remember the scene? Hold on. Yeah. It's the one with the Training Day quotes. Remember when Denzel said, I hope I said that right. Remember when Denzel said, hold on, I see it now. We'll pull up Training Day, actually. I'm going to show you guys. Remember when Denzel, with the Training Day quote, remember when he said, let's see, you can see it here. I remember this. It's not that one. It's at the end when he said, is it the King Kong one? That's the rabbit. You don't deserve this. I should have been a fireman. Oh, yeah. King Kong. That's the one. King Kong ain't got shit on me. Yeah. This is thank you, Trash Can. Oh, you motherfuckers. You think you can do this to me? That's the one. That's how Joe Biden was feeling at that time. That's how he was feeling. I don't know if they mentioned that one here. Yeah, here we go. Remember, he was like, oh, you motherfuckers. You think you can do this to me? Hey, Jay! You think you can do this to me? Jay! I'm silly. Sorry, guys. It's Sunday. Sunday's a different kind of show. But yeah, that's what Biden was feeling at that time, I guess. But now you know a little bit more about that story. So that's really interesting. Let's go to some of the comments in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Wisconsin. Oh, yes. Wisconsin on Tuesday. Thank you, Wasim. I still LMAO on that grocery scene, especially the part when her exiting the store. It's funny. I'm sorry. She's Black says, so basically she was given the nomination. There you go. Thank you, Judy. Thank you. I tell my kids not to let their kids, my grandkids, to join the military. We are just tool for the big fat cats. That's right. Thank you, Jasmine. And people claim Democrats are fighting for democracy. They do, huh? Thank you, Isaiah. Ain't this about a... I mean, cousin too much on this show tonight, but yeah. Thank you, Colin. So Biden effed over Americans by getting the last word over Obama. Yep. That's right, sir. Thank you for the super sticker, Massimo Perone. That's a pretty name. Thank you, Blueser. Hate when I'm late for the show, but I'm ready for the upload. Thanks, Sabs, for keeping us informed. You are welcome. And thank you for the super sticker, Kurt. And thank you for the super sticker, Crystal. Thank you so much. Let's get the comment on Rockfin, Corey. Oh my God. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Y'all think that's bad. You should hear what the actors say about Spike. I felt the same way about Medea being minstrel. My sisters like them. I watched and couldn't stop laughing with a guilty pleasure. I always said he should make a switch from doing these movies with Christian dogma. Henson lost me with PJ 2025, though. Man, you think Joe hated ends before? He must really hate us now. He probably did. We'll watch it one more time, guys. We'll head out with this because it's just so funny. I'm sorry. And I forgot to point out, he hops out of the freezer. This is the funny part. Like, watch him hop out the freezer. Watch.
See you come to the market every Tuesday like clockwork. You not gonna say anything?
No, actually, I'm not.
Kinda like a bitch, like your daughter.
Watch your mouth. I'm a woman of God. Oh, you crazy?
You think I'm a motherfucking fool? Huh?
Boy, get your hands off me.
Run and tell your husband that shit.
You dead. You fool. You crazy. You fool. You fool. You devil. You fool.
And what the fuck you looking at?
Have a good night. Keep up the fight. Thank you, Davida.